We were signing divorce papers in 3 days. I had 1 week to change everything. So I didn't try to change her. I revised the past. I replayed every fight, every argument, every cold silence, and imagined it differently. 7 days later, she canceled the lawyer. This is the power of revision. Now I want you to hear me very carefully, because what I am about to share with you tonight goes against everything you have been taught about fixing broken relationships, about healing wounds, about making things right with another person. You have been told to communicate better, to apologize more sincerely, to try harder, to be more patient, to give it time. And perhaps you have done all of these things. Perhaps you have bent yourself into shapes you no longer recognize, spoken words you rehearsed in the mirror, tiptoed around landmines in your own home. And still, nothing changed. Or it changed for a day, maybe 2, and then the old pattern returned like a river flowing back to its original course. What if I told you that the person you are trying to change has already changed 1,000 times in 1,000 different versions of your past, and you simply chose over and over again to remember the version where they hurt you? What if the past is not fixed? What if memory is not a recording, but a choice? And you have been choosing every single day to replay the version of events that keeps you stuck. This is not psychology. This is not positive thinking. This is the mechanics of consciousness itself. Tonight, I want to give you a technique so simple, so direct, that you will be tempted to dismiss it. Do not. I have seen this technique save marriages that were hours from ending. I have seen it restore relationships between parents and children who had not spoken in years. I have seen it heal friendships that died in betrayal. But more than that, I have seen it change the person using it so profoundly that they walk through the same door they walked through yesterday and find a completely different house on the other side. The law is this: your assumptions harden into fact. What you assume to be true about another person, about your past with them, about what happened and what it meant, becomes the reality you experience with them today. Not because you are imagining things, not because you are delusional, but because consciousness is the only reality, and the world you see is your consciousness pushed out. Every person in your life is you pushed out. Your wife is you pushed out. Your husband is you pushed out. Your mother, your father, your brother, your boss, your friend who betrayed you, they are all you pushed out. And if they are you pushed out, then the version of them you experience is the version you are assuming into existence. Let me say that again, because this is the heart of everything. The version of them you experience is the version you are assuming into existence. You are not a passive observer of your relationships. You are not a victim of how other people choose to treat you. You are the operant power in your world, and every single person reflects back to you the assumptions you hold about them, about yourself, about what is possible between you. Now hear me carefully, because this is not what you think it is. This is not the belief that if you think positive thoughts about someone, they will magically become kind. This is not affirmations. This is not sitting in front of a mirror saying, "My husband loves me, my husband loves me," while your entire inner being screams the opposite. That is not assumption. That is wishing. That is hoping. That is begging the universe to contradict what you actually believe. And the universe does not contradict you. It confirms you. Always. Assumption is the state you live in when you are not paying attention. It is the silent conversation you have with yourself about who that person is and what they are capable of. It is the feeling in your body when you hear their footsteps in the hallway. It is the story you tell yourself about why they said what they said, why they did what they did, why it will always be this way. That is assumption, and it hardens into fact. Not sometimes, not under ideal conditions, always. And for most people, good people, intelligent people, the assumption they hold about a difficult relationship is a recording of the worst moments. You have a library in your mind, and every time you think of this person, you pull out the same 3 or 4 memories and play them again. The time they yelled at you in front of your children, the time they forgot your birthday, the time they looked at you with contempt, the time they said the thing that cut so deep you can still feel it years later. You play these memories and you call it being realistic. You call it protecting yourself. You call it not being naive. But what you are actually doing is assuming them into that version of themselves over and over again, every single day. And because assumption creates reality, they show up as that version. They cannot help it. You are meeting them in consciousness, in the only place where meeting actually happens, and you are meeting them as the person who hurt you. And so they hurt you again. Not because they are inherently cruel, not because they do not love you, but because you are assuming them into the role of the one who hurts you, and consciousness must confirm your assumptions. This is where most people fall. They say, but you do not understand, this person actually did those things. Those memories are real. I am not making them up. I did not imagine the affair. I did not imagine the lies. I did not imagine the years of coldness. And I say to you, of course, those things happened in the version of the past you are choosing to remember. But the past is not a single fixed event. The past is a pattern of assumptions that you have crystallized into what you call memory. And if assumptions create reality, then your memory of the past is not a fact. It is a choice. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me years ago. She did not tell me her name. She did not need to. I could see it in her eyes. The kind of tired that sleep does not fix. She sat across from me and said, I am losing my husband. We have been married for 16 years. We have 3 children. And I am losing him. Not to another woman. Not to his work. I am losing him to the space between us that grows wider every day, and I do not know how to cross it anymore. I asked her, when did this begin? And she said, I can tell you the exact moment. 4 years ago, he came home late on our anniversary. He had promised to be home by 6. He did not walk through the door until after 11. No call, no explanation. Just, I am sorry it was work. And I knew in that moment that I was not a priority to him. I knew that whatever we had was already over, and we were just going through the motions. I said to her, and in the 4 years since that night, how many times have you replayed that memory? How many times have you used it as evidence of who he is? She looked at me and I saw the recognition in her face. Every day, she said. Every single day. When he is late picking up the kids. When he works through dinner. When he falls asleep without kissing me goodnight. I think, of course, this is who he is. This is who he has always been. I said, you are not remembering that night. You are choosing that night. And every time you choose it, you harden the assumption that he does not care, that you are not important to him, that the love is gone. And he feels that assumption. He walks into a house where his wife has already decided he is the man who forgot their anniversary, and he becomes that man. Not because he wants to, but because you are meeting him there in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. She said, so what do I do? Do I pretend it did not happen? Do I lie to myself? And I said, no. You revise it. You go back to that night, not as it happened in the version you have been choosing, but as it would have happened if your assumption about him had been different. You replay it. You revise it. You imagine it the way you wish it had been, and you do it with such feeling, with such sensory vividness, that your consciousness accepts the revision as the memory. Here is what I told her to do. Tonight, before you sleep, go back to that anniversary. Do not observe it from the outside. Be there. Feel the texture of the couch where you were sitting. Hear the clock ticking, and then hear the door open at 6:15. See him walk in with flowers. Hear him say, "I left early. I wanted to be home with you." Feel his arms around you. Hear yourself laugh. Feel the relief, the warmth, the rightness of it. And stay in that scene until it feels more real than the memory you have been carrying. She looked at me like I was asking her to move a mountain with her hands. I said, "Do not worry about whether you believe it. Do not worry about whether it is true. Just do it. Revise that one night. And then revise the next memory that comes up. And the next. Every time you find yourself returning to a painful moment with him, stop. Go back. Replay it differently. Not as a fantasy, as a revision, as a correction to the assumption you made at the time. She went home. She did it. The first night, she told me later, it felt like play acting, like lying. But she did it anyway. She revised the anniversary. And then she revised the morning he snapped at her over coffee. And then the time he forgot to pick up their daughter from soccer. One by one, she went back to the moments that had calcified into evidence of his indifference, and she revised them into moments of love. And here is what happened. After 2 weeks, he started coming home earlier. Not because she asked, not because they had a conversation. He just started showing up at dinner. After a month, he planned a weekend away, just the two of them, something he had not done in years. After 3 months, he said to her, "I do not know what has changed, but I feel like I am falling in love with you again." And she looked at him and thought, "You are not falling in love with me again. You are meeting me in a different assumption. I am no longer the woman whose husband does not care. I am the woman whose husband adores her. And because I have assumed that you have become it." She said to me, "It was not that he changed. It was that I stopped holding him in the old story. And the moment I stopped, he was free to be someone else." I said to her, "He was always someone else. You just could not see it because you were looking at him through the lens of the past you kept choosing." Now let me go beneath the surface of this and show you why revision works not as magic, not as wishful thinking, but as the mechanical operation of consciousness itself. Think of the night sky. When you look up and see a star, you are not seeing that star as it is now. You are seeing light that left that star years ago, sometimes centuries ago. By the time the light reaches your eyes, the star may have already burned out. What you are seeing is the past. And yet to you, it appears to be the present. Your circumstances are the same. What you are experiencing right now in your relationship, in your marriage, in your interactions with another person, is not the result of who they are in this moment. It is the result of the assumptions you made about them weeks ago, months ago, sometimes years ago. Those assumptions are still traveling towards you, manifesting as the behaviors, you see the words, you hear the coldness you feel. By the time you experience them, the assumption that created them is already old. It is already the past. But you think it is happening now. You think this is who they are. When you revise the past, you are not changing what happened. You are changing the assumption that is still generating your present experience of them. You are going back to the source, to the moment when you decided what that event meant, and you are choosing a different meaning. And when you choose a different meaning, the light that travels forward from that moment is different. The circumstances that manifest in your present become different. Not because you rewrote history, but because you stopped feeding the assumption that was keeping the old pattern alive. Here is another way to see it. Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror, and you do not like what you see. You do not like the expression on the face looking back at you. So what do? Do you reach out and try to rearrange the face in the mirror? Do you put your hands on the glass and push the reflection into a smile? Of course not. That would be insane. You know that the mirror does not create the image. It reflects it. If you want the reflection to change, you must change what is standing in front of the mirror. And yet this is exactly what you do in your relationships. You see a person treating you coldly, and you try to change them. You try to convince them to be warmer. You try to explain how their coldness hurts you. You try to manipulate the reflection. But the reflection cannot change until you change the assumption you are bringing to them. They are the mirror. You are the one standing in front of it. And what they reflect back to you is the assumption you hold about yourself, about them, about what is possible between you. When you revise the past, you are not changing the mirror. You are changing what you bring to the mirror. You are stepping in front of it with a different assumption, and the reflection must change. It has no choice. The mirror does not argue. It does not resist. It simply reflects. So let us talk about what this looks like in the actual texture of your actual life. You are in a marriage that feels like a battlefield. Every conversation is a minefield. You walk on eggshells and still somehow you step on one. The other person explodes or shuts down or walks away, and you think, here we go again. This is who we are. This is how it always goes. And in that moment, you have a choice. Not a dramatic choice, not a life-altering decision. Just a small, quiet choice about what you do in the next 30 seconds. You can do what you have always done. You can replay the fight in your mind. You can build the case for why you are right and they are wrong. You can add this moment to the library of evidence that this relationship is broken. Or you can stop. Right there. In the middle of the hurt. In the middle of the anger. And you can revise. Here is how. Close your eyes. Go back to the beginning of the conversation. Not as it happened. As it would have happened if both of you were operating from love instead of fear. Replay it. Hear your voice calm and kind. Hear their voice soft and open. See the conversation end in understanding, in laughter, in a hug. Do not worry about whether this feels true. Do not worry about whether you believe it. Just do it. Spend 30 seconds, maybe a minute, revising that moment into what you wish it had been, and then let it go. Do not obsess over it. Do not check to see if it worked. Just go about your day. And tonight, before you sleep, do it again. Revise the worst moment of your day with this person. Then revise the worst moment of yesterday. Then the worst moment of last week. Go back one by one to the moments that hurt and imagine them differently. Not as a fantasy, as a correction. As the truth you are choosing to make real. You will notice something strange after a few days of this. The person will start showing up differently. Not in big dramatic ways, in small ways. They will say something kind when you expect criticism. They will reach for your hand when you expect distance. They will laugh when you expect to fight. And you will think, what is happening? Did they change? And the answer is no. They did not change. You stopped assuming them into the version of themselves that hurt you, and the moment you stopped, they were free to be who they actually are, beneath the layers of your old assumptions. But here is the part that no one tells you, the part that most people are not ready to hear. The revision is not really about changing them. It is about changing you. Because when you revise the past, you are not just changing your memory of what they did. You are changing your identity. You are stepping out of the identity of the one who was hurt, the one who was betrayed, the one who is unloved, and you are stepping into the identity of the one who is cherished, the one who is chosen, the one whose love is returned. And when you change your identity, everything changes. Because you do not see them through the eyes of the wounded one anymore. You see them through the eyes of the loved one. And what the loved one sees is completely different from what the wounded one sees. The wounded one sees evidence of betrayal in every glance. The loved one sees devotion. The wounded one hears criticism in every word. The loved one hears care. Same person, same words, same glances, different assumption, different world. So tonight, before you sleep, I want you to do this. Think of the person you are struggling with, the one you are ready to give up on, the one who has hurt you so many times you have lost count. And I want you to go back to the moment when it started to fall apart. Maybe you know exactly when it was. Maybe it is a blur of 1,000 small cuts. Either way, pick one moment, just one, the anniversary he missed, the time she said she needed space, the argument that ended in silence. Whatever it is, go back to it. Close your eyes. Be there. And then revise it. Not as it happened. As it would have happened if love had won. If understanding had been present. If both of you had been operating from your highest selves. See it. Hear it. Feel it. Stay in that revision until your body relaxes, until the tightness in your chest softens, until some part of you whispers, yes, this is how it could have been. This is how it should have been. This is how it is in the version of the past I am choosing now. Do not do this once and expect a miracle. Do this every night. Revise one moment every night. And watch what happens. Watch how the present starts to shift. Watch how the person starts to soften. Watch how the space between you starts to close, not because you begged, not because you explained, but because you stopped holding them hostage to a past that you were choosing over and over again. Now I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it without flinching. There will be a moment, and perhaps you are already in one, where you will revise and revise and revise, and the next day they will do the same thing they always do. They will say the same cutting remark. They will pull away in the same cold silence. They will prove to you that nothing has changed. And in that moment, every part of you will scream, see, this does not work. You are wasting your time. They are who they are, and no amount of imagining will change that. That moment is the test. That is the moment when your assumption is being forged into something permanent, or it is being abandoned. Most people abandon it. They revise for 3 days, maybe a week, and then they hit resistance and they say, I tried. It did not work. And they go back to the old assumption, the old story, the old version of the person that keeps them stuck. But if you pass that test, if you hold the revision, even when the outer world has not yet caught up, something happens. The assumption deepens. It becomes natural. It becomes who you are. And when it becomes who you are, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. Not because you forced it, not because you convinced anyone, but because consciousness is the only reality, and what you assume in consciousness must appear in your world. Let me tell you what this looks like when it works. It does not look like fireworks. It does not look like a dramatic reconciliation scene from a movie. It looks like ordinariness. It looks like your spouse asking what you want for dinner and actually listening to the answer. It looks like them texting you in the middle of the day just to say they are thinking of you. It looks like small moments of tenderness that you had forgotten were possible. And the strangest part is, it feels inevitable. It feels like, of course, this is happening. Of course we are good again. Of course we love each other. It feels like this is how it has always been, and the painful past you carried for so long starts to feel like a bad dream you can barely remember. That is how you know the revision has taken hold. Not when the outer circumstances change, but when the old story stops feeling true. When you try to remember the fight that almost ended everything, and you cannot quite access the feeling of it anymore. When someone asks you, "How is your marriage?" and you say it is good and you mean it, and you cannot even remember when it was not good. That is the revision becoming your reality. I knew a man, once a quiet man, who told me he had been carrying a grudge against his father for 23 years. 23 years. His father had missed his college graduation. Missed it because of work, because of a meeting that could not be rescheduled, because of all the reasons that sounded reasonable, but felt like abandonment to a 22-year-old young man who wanted his father to see him walk across that stage. For 23 years, every interaction with his father was colored by that absence. Every conversation was short. Every visit was tense. He could not forgive it. He could not forget it. And his father, bless him, did not even know. The father thought they were fine. The son knew they were not. I said to him, "Revise it." He said, "How do I revise something that happened 23 years ago?" I said, "The same way you revise something that happened yesterday. Time is not the issue. The assumption is the issue. You have been assuming for 23 years that your father chose work over you, that you were not important enough, that his love had limits. That assumption is still creating your relationship with him today. Revise the assumption and the relationship changes." So he did. Every night for a month, he went back to that graduation day. And he imagined his father there, in the audience, beaming, proud. And after the ceremony, his father hugging him, saying, "I am so proud of you, son. I would not have missed this for the world." He imagined it until it felt more real than the memory of the empty seat. And then something extraordinary happened. His father called him, out of nowhere. Said, "I have been thinking about your graduation, and I need to tell you something. I have regretted missing that day every day since. I know I said it was work, but the truth is I was afraid. Afraid that if I went I would cry, and I did not want you to see me cry. I thought I was being strong. I see now I was being a coward. I am sorry, son. I am so sorry." The man told me later, "I did not change the past. I changed what the past meant. And when I changed what it meant, my father was free to tell me the truth he had been carrying all along." The revision did not rewrite history. It rewrote the story I was telling about history. And the moment the story changed, everything changed. Do you see, revision is not about denying what happened. It is about refusing to let what happened define what is possible now. It is about recognizing that the past you remember is not an objective fact. It is a selective memory shaped by the assumptions you held at the time. And if assumptions create reality, then your memory is not neutral. It is creative. It is still creating your present. And you have the power to revise it. So here is what I want you to understand as you walk out of here tonight. The person you are struggling with, the relationship you think is beyond repair, the past you think is set in stone, none of it is fixed. None of it is final. You have been assuming them into a version of themselves based on old pain, old wounds, old stories. And they have been showing up as that version because you are the operant power. And they have no choice but to reflect what you assume. But you can stop. Right now. Tonight. You can go back to the moment it broke and you can imagine it whole. You can revise the fight into a conversation. You can revise the betrayal into a misunderstanding. You can revise the coldness into warmth. And you can do it not because you are pretending, but because you are choosing a different assumption about who they are, about who you are, about what is possible between you. And when you choose that assumption, when you live in it, when you return to it, every time the old story tries to pull you back, the outer world will shift. Not because you manipulated it, not because you convinced anyone, but because consciousness is the only reality, and what you assume in consciousness must harden into fact. The marriage that was ending in 3 days can be saved in 7. The parent you have not spoken to in years can call you next week. The friend who betrayed you can reach out tomorrow. Not because they suddenly decided to change, but because you stopped assuming them into the role of the one who hurt you. And the moment you stopped, they were free to be who they have always been beneath your old assumptions. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the law. And the law works. Not sometimes. Not under ideal conditions. Always. Test it. Revise one moment tonight. Just one. The worst one. The one you replay when you cannot sleep. Go back to it and imagine it differently. Do it with feeling. Do it with sensory vividness. Do it until your body believes it. And then let it go. Do not check tomorrow to see if it worked. Just revise again tomorrow night. And the night after. And the night after that. Build a new past one revision at a time. And watch how the present becomes unrecognizable. Watch how the person you were ready to lose becomes the person you cannot imagine living without. Watch how the relationship you thought was dead comes back to life, not because you resurrected it, but because you stopped choosing the version of it that was always dying. Walk out of here knowing this. The past is not behind you. It is in you. And what is in you can be revised. You are not a victim of your history. You are the author of it. And authors can always revise. They can always choose a different ending. They can always go back and rewrite the chapter that broke the story. And when they do, the rest of the book changes. Not the words on the page, the meaning of the words. And meaning is everything. Good night, my friends. Go home and revise. One moment, one memory, one assumption, and watch your world transform. This is the law. This is the power you have always had. Use it.